First of all, I would like to thank you, all of you who are coming in person in this meeting room. And I would like also to thank all the people connected online for your interest. First, I would like to start to explain you why Flying Green is so important to us. So first of all, Flying Green is one of the 10 flagships of our DG Raising the Bar program. So it was really important for us to deliver. And then, you know, it was a long journey to come at this point today, because, you know, there were a lot of expectations on Flying Green, and we wanted to give you a good platform, giving you our data, our expertise, and some tools to help you on your decarbonization journey. And I must say, when we released our first version back in July 2024, it was quite a limited version, that's clear. But since then, you know, we released 2 other versions. And it's also thanks to some of you who are connected online, who are here in the room, because you provided your feedback about what functionalities needs to be deployed, what are the priorities that we needed to consider. And all that journey, you know, was possible thanks to that support. And now I must say, I'm very proud to share this new Flying Green platform with you, because the team spent a lot of time on it. And by the way, all of that would not have been possible without the team. And today, the team is going to speak. So for the different pillars, you know, you will have different speakers. All of them have heavily contributed to that work. And so for the ClimAdapt pillar, Tamara and Rachel is the lead, she's just next to me, and she tries to finish her PhD. But I was not supposed to tell you that, you know, but she's under pressure. But still, you know, she was able to deliver it. And then for NetZero, we will have Pascal and Antonio, Pascal leading the NetZero pillar. Then for FuellingDecarb, it will be Laurent and Pierre-Louis, with Laurent leading also the work on FuellingDecarb. And finally, for DecarbFin, it will be Costas, Sabine, and Pierre-Louis, with Costas leading the work on that pillar. And of course, now all of that is possible because we had an excellent program manager, which is Tamara, just next to me. And I spoke already too much, so I'm going to stop there, and I will give the floor to Tamara for the rest. But I really hope you will enjoy this session. This is really important because we try to tailor it to your needs. We received some feedback in the past, and it's good for us that we were able to provide such an event in which we are going to share some of our feedback and use cases, and then you will be in a better position to understand how to use that platform. And I really hope that you will feel that it's useful for your work. And yes, I wish good luck to the team as well. So Tamara, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to be very brief before my colleagues actually deep dive and showcase each pillar and the use cases that we selected for you today. What I wanted to say is that over the past 2 years, we have spoken, I think, with hundreds of different stakeholders, some of you probably, so with the airports, ANSPs, with the OEMs, with the financial institutions, any type of institution that we thought it's important for us actually to bring the knowledge to the table so that we can shape the Flying Green and the functionalities around the questions and the problems that were raised. And Flying Green is not just a tool. It's becoming a very much the ecosystem. It's a live platform that is shaped, built by us and our stakeholders. It brings together a variety of information, data, models, and user-driven scenarios to help you to solve decision-making problems, operational problems, and something actually that can help you on your sustainability challenges or in your decarbonization paths. You will see through the use cases and examples that we have chosen for you today, different type of dashboards, modeling tools, and intelligence that you can extract from the tool to help you in this on this journey. So what can you expect today? As I said, first and most important, our goal is very simple today. We want to get you very comfortable with the tool. So we want to show you how you can use the tool and how you can extract the intelligence from the tool that can serve your purpose. So we have selected a couple of use cases, real life examples to explain this. You will be more than welcome actually to ask the questions and interact with the experts either during the sessions or during the lunch break to ask the different questions, to ask about your own use cases, to present the problems you have, because as I said, the platform is still live. We are co-developing platform with you. So we're building the platform with you, for you. And last but not least, we want to build the user community. So from, say, consultation group that we had in the past or so far, we want to build the user community that can thrive from this use of the platform. So you will see that in the near future, we'll be providing the micro-learning tailored to the specific needs or use cases around the Flying Green. In the fall this year, we will offer the training with the help of our colleagues from the Luxembourg. And also, we're going to offer you a tailored support. So as of September this year, you will be in a position to write to us to ask our help with a specific problem that you have, and we can help you using the Flying Green how to solve that. So this is the plan for today. Obviously, you don't have to stay for every session. I applaud you if you do. But we have divided the day in 4 distinct sessions for each pillar. So the first 2 sessions in the morning are around the NetZero and the ClimAdapt. You saw the times there. And the second 2 after the lunch break is starting at 13:30 is the FuellingDecarb and the DecarbFin. So as I said, once again, thank you very much for joining us today in person or live online. I hope you will enjoy what my colleagues will show you now. And if any questions, please don't hesitate to either ask them through the chat, and we will try to answer all of them. For the people here physically present, by all means, come and talk to us during the lunch break. We will probably stay here for a while, actually, to answer all your questions. So without further ado, I will call my colleague Pascal, who will open the sessions with the NetZero pillar. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tamara, for the introduction. My name is Pascal Hop, and I will introduce the demonstration with regards to the NetZero pillar, one of the 4 pillars that Tamara just showed. And I will use, let's say, a demonstration of about 30 minutes with some possibilities to ask questions afterwards for the last 15 minutes. I've just included an introduction slide just for you to have an overview of what NetZero will be. But rather than to show, let's say, the different functionalities that are available on the NetZero pillar, I'd like to show you a demonstration because I think that will provide you a bit better information about what it exactly is. I need to, I think, press escape, go to the elements that I prepared. The first 3 are mine. Yeah. Okay, very good. So this is the live platform that is currently already there. If you go to the EUROCONTROL website or Google EUROCONTROL Flying Green, you will have a link to the Flying Green platform. And at the top, you will see the 4 pillars. If you press NetZero, you will enter here. And before I explain exactly what you can see on the platform, because you see a lot of things, I think it's important to mention that you take note of the disclaimers that we mentioned also on the platform and of the user manual so that you fully understand what situation is that we want to present to you. So we present results with regards to fuel burn, emissions, exhaust emissions, net emissions, operational improvements, and so on and so forth. But by no means we are trying to tell you what the situation will be for the future. We are just presenting a picture based on the default values that we have in our aviation outlook, but the platform specifically is for the stakeholders to introduce your own values from your local situation and to see what the effects and the impacts are on several elements, fuel burn, emissions, costs, etc. So this is just a starting point, but it is for you to use in your efforts to assess your emission picture. Now let's dive into what you can see on the platform. What is the main screen that you see, or the main graph that you see, the emission graph, is basically a collection based on EUROCONTROL operational data. So we use the radar data so the most accurate data that we have available in the network management systems. We use that data to provide a reference picture. In this case, that will be 2024. And what you'll see is that we use the projections, the traffic predictions from the Aviation Outlook 2050 and our emission modeling tools to both provide you with projections for fuel burn towards the future and projections for emissions towards the future. Now, the top line that you see is basically the exhaust emissions as if nothing would happen with regards to improvement measures towards 2050. And then you see a couple of lines, a couple of colors indicating the CO2 reduction potential from fleet renewal, from fleet revolution, from operational improvements, and the blue part is from SAP. Which then results finally in the green bottom line, which are net emissions. So those net emissions is basically taking into account operational improvements, life cycle assessment values from the sustainable aviation fuels. Sustainable aviation fuels will be very much presented in the afternoon session by my colleague Laurent. But this is basically what then results in terms of net emissions, and then the white part still remains, and that needs to be offset by market-based measures. And taking into account a couple of assumptions with regards to fuel prices, CO2 allowances, CORSIA allowances, etc., we sort of construct the additional environmental cost graph for specific airlines. Now, you see on the left side the potential to select an area, a network, or you can select a state, or you can select a functional airspace block, or an ASP, or an airport. And how we can do this is by using the trajectories that we have from the radar data and deconstructing them into segments based on milestone intersections, geographical intersections, airspace intersections, and so on. So we have all these segments with their fuel burn and with their emissions based on the emission modeling tools that we have available. And just by adding segments in a particular view, you can construct your results with regards to fuel burn and emissions in the different areas. So here you see, for instance, the ECAC network, but we have all different networks available in the portal as well. So you can go to EU27 and you will see the UK, obviously, and Norway not eliminated, but excluded. We have the EUROCONTROL network. So we have these several networks. But we do also have that for state. By default, we go to Belgium, maybe because EUROCONTROL is headquarters is situated in Brussels, obviously. And then based on those intersections with the Belgian border, you can see again the segments that we have on the platform being put together, providing you with the situation of emissions and fuel burn. Now we have two different views: an area focus and a full trajectory focus. So the area focus will provide you with the emissions and fuel burn only inside the area that you selected, but sometimes it's more convenient and more interesting to show, let's say, the full trajectory fuel burn and emission results, and that's we have to go to a different database because we don't have all the radar data, let's say, globally. So we have to use a different database from our colleagues in Brittany, but then we can go to the full trajectory focus. So we have those two different options to play with. Exactly. Yeah.
Which point?
Entry and exit into the area.
Okay.
So, for instance, take a flight from Brussels to New York. The area focus will give you the emissions from Brussels to the border of Belgium, and the full trajectory focus will take into account the emissions and fuel burn from Brussels all the way to New York. But because we don't have the radar data outside the European airspace available, we have to take some assumptions about the trajectory flown afterwards. So that's less accurate information, but still very useful information. So that's the difference between the two. And you can imagine, of course, that if you are talking about fuel burn or fuel requirements from an airport point of view, for instance, it is more important that you have an understanding of the full trajectory fuel requirements than on the area fuel requirements, because otherwise you have way too less fuel. So if you go to a state, you can basically see the situation based on the EUROCONTROL forecast. You can filter the situation or the flight types or the flight phases or the market segments, however you like. But like I said, there are what-if options. So we provide you with default values that emerge from the aviation outlook reports, the EUROCONTROL aviation outlook reports, resulting in those pictures. But in some other, let's say, reports, different assumptions have been applied, and you would be able to apply those different assumptions on the platform. So you can choose how much SAF you are thinking will be applied for your local situation. We start with the Refuel EU mandate, but you can deviate from that. You can choose what aircraft renewal programs will deliver in your specific area. So you can go to do nothing, or you can go very high in terms of fleet renewal. Fleet revolution you can input. So that's based. So this is typically electric flights, hybrid flights, and hydrogen flights you can enter. By the way, we are updating the functionality for even let's say continuous developments after these sessions. But you can also input many different views with regards to operational improvements per flight phase. So the taxi out phase, in climb, cruise, descent, and so on. Yes, please.
Okay, so the percentages shows percentage of fleet, or what is the percentage showing? Everywhere, you know, even for renewal, you have, when you hover over, you'll see now 17.4%. So it means that.
Sorry. This means that by 2015, you would get 17.4% CO2 reduction because of fleet renewal. But you can change that. You can go to all the way to 0, or you can go all the way to 35%. So, for instance, typically in the EUROCONTROL aviation outlook, we assume a 17% to be reached by 2050. If you look at Destination 2050 reports, they have a higher number. So, if you want to start from that perspective, you can input those assumptions from the Destination 2050 reports and see what it would mean in your local situation, depending on the selection that you have made. Same for revolution. We typically think 2 to 3% by 2050. Alliance for Zero Emission Aircraft typically thinks about 30% for 2050. So depending on your situation, you can enter these elements. So those are the I'm always a bit confused about which color this is, but orange, pinkish, and the yellow colors are typically for the renewal and for the revolution part. Then if you look to the I also don't know what that color is, purple something. Those are typically the operational improvements, and we don't want to give you, let's say, or we want to provide you with the options to input your operational improvements. We don't know exactly what those are in your particular area because there's many operational improvements possible in different areas. So we start with roughly, let's say, overall to something like between 6 and 12% as default values, but you are able to input your values again. We are not prescribing what would be the operational improvement potential. We are just indicating what typically operational improvements are for some of the operational implementations.
So the default values that are presented when you open this are your assumptions, let's say.
Yes, they are again based on assumptions from EUROCONTROL Outlook reports. But I will show you later a use case that you can really change those settings so that you have a better view on what an operational improvement would do in your specific area. Also, you can input, but not in detailed level, but you can input different price levels for ETS CO2 allowances, for CORSIA allowances, for jet fuel price, and for SAF price. Now, Laurent will again show you way more detail with regards to SAF prices. But for the moment, if you have seen by any chance the EUROCONTROL Aviation Outlook, we are normally thinking in low, base, and high scenarios, and the prices associated to those low, base, and high scenarios are covered here as well. And that, of course, would have an impact on the cost element. So if you select a low ETS price, you would see some changes in the cost graph below. For the jet fuel prices and for the SAF prices. So you can enter those as well. For the rest, we have, let's say, summarized cumulative emissions for the selections that you've made in the graph that you see top right, and a bit more detailed results per category if you would select fleet renewal, so that you have a bit of better perspective of the single, let's say, operational improvement that you have introduced. Now, what we have added last time for the last release is typically the ANSP views, and you can see that generated a lot of additional intersections in the methodology that we applied. But basically, all these areas that you see in that very detailed map here are able to be selected, and you can see typically from your ANSP operational point of view the different numbers again, and you can play with it in terms of operational improvement. And on the right, we have slightly changed the overview so that you have an easier perspective of what operational improvements, etc., would be. I think I need to indeed make it even a little bit more smaller, and so that you then see what the results are. Okay. Let's go like this. Yes. So let me go to a operational use case. So you are, for instance, and I think I selected it here. So in this case, I have selected a area. In this case, Zagreb ACC, just by coincidence, no pre-plan or whatever, making that selection. I just selected Zagreb ACC. And now for the purpose of, let's say, a operational cost-benefit analysis or assessment, I've put all my operational improvements on 0, because I want to be able to isolate one of those improvements to see what that would do in terms of implementation. So only the exhaust values are here, and no CO2 reduction or fuel burn reduction or anything like that. So now if you would go, for instance, to I want to make a change in the cruise phase, you can read the let's say potential operational improvements. And for instance, if you haven't implemented flexible use of airspace, or you haven't implemented free window airspace, or you want to introduce operator flight efficiency measures or anything like that, you could, from the list, you can get a perspective of what kind of operational improvement, in what kind of order of magnitude that operational improvement would be, and you would be able to select. You can select the values that you want. So let's go for 2%. No, hang on, there is an AZERTY laptop. AZERTY certified. So let's go to 2, 3, and 4%. Just a random number, but it's more for the purpose of the demonstration than these are actual numbers. You could see this also from let's say the overall value, where you have everything. But the beauty is that if you start really from zero and you isolate that operational improvement, it is a bit easier to see what that operational improvement would bring you in terms of CO2 reduction. And not only in the typical year where you have the CO2 reduction, but the top graph would also give you a perspective of what the cumulative effect will be over time. So you can really isolate those areas. And if you are an ANSP or a state or an airport or something, it doesn't really matter. If you have a operational improvement and you have a feeling for what that operational improvement might bring in terms of improvements, then you could enter that into Flying Green, and it will start with your operational trajectory reference points, in this case 2024. It will apply the traffic scenarios from EUROCONTROL. So those are quite sophisticated traffic projections. And with that information and your input, it would give you as a result the potential in terms of fuel reduction and CO2 reduction, so that you can use this as, let's say, additional justification in your reports. If you think, okay, that's one, I'd like to add fleet renewal, because I know that fleet revolution, because I know we are specifically active in bringing in hydrogen aircraft or electric aircraft or something like that. So I assume that 5% of the traffic, I reach an additional 5%, then the typical operational improvement or the CO2 reduction is added, obviously, and you can see again in the graph what the result would be. So I think this for the let's say from the perspective of the different operational users and stakeholders, this is quite an interesting tool to add these kind of information on the project justification and cost benefit analysis, etc. Another use case, which is more to do with airports. So I've selected a airport, again, random airport, in this case Charleroi in Belgium, and you see that these are the default values that we have based on the operational improvements from the EUROCONTROL Aviation Outlook reports, based on the projections again, and so on. Now, we know that airports normally report their LTO cycle based on standardized ICAO timestamps. So you have the landing takeoff cycle from ICAO, and I think taxi out, for instance, is something like 19 minutes of standardized time. And every airport needs to report based on these standardized timestamps. However, for instance, in Charleroi Airport, the taxi out time is not 19 minutes. So it's always an artificial value that you will report, which is completely unrealistic if you want to compare that, or if you want to have an assessment from an operational point of view. Our data is based on operational data. So where we have the taxi phase in the NM system, based on airport CDM, based on aircraft operators input, based on airports input, we have, let's say, the best operational view of the landing and takeoff cycle in the Flying Green platform. So what you could do, from an airport perspective is to use, let's say, the historical data to understand what actually happens, and you can compare that with what you need to report. By the way, Flying Green is not a reporting tool or monitoring tool. It's just providing the operational, let's say, the best operational data that we have, and we will calculate with the best emission tools that we have, but it's not for monitoring and reporting, because for those methodologies, there are formalized, validated methodologies, and this is not. This is just providing you with operational data. But at least from the platform, you can see this is what we need to report following the official methodologies, but this is actually what happens. And you can, again, apply your operational improvements with regards to, for instance, improvements with regards to taxi out or taxi in to those operational values. And of course, sustainable taxiing is quite a hot topic nowadays. So to electrify, let's say, the ground movements, following the report and the results from the EUROCONTROL Sustainable Taxiing Task Force, typically improvements between 40 and 60% could be achieved in terms of taxi output. And you could again put that in here. Well, it's already quite high, so I can't. But if I would put, let's say, a 0, it probably has, you can see changes in the graph, quite an impact on the, again, sorry, quite an impact on the results. But now based on the actual operational values, and you can see those differences with the reporting. So again, for operational improvement perspective purposes, this tool will provide you with better view than what the formalized tools and the formalized methodology will bring you. I think in a very high level, like I said, this is there is a lot of information here. There's a lot of different ways you can use the platform. So again, I would really like you to read the disclaimers and to look at the user manual, because there's a lot more. Every time you use it, there's a lot more potential that you sort of discover. So it's important to understand what you are looking at. But I think the initial experience that we have with a number of stakeholders is that the potential of the NetZero pillar is quite significant, and well, obviously we are hoping with the team that it's will be widely used after this onboarding event, and we are very much looking forward to get your feedback on what we have delivered and what we will deliver in the future. And that for the moment, I think, is it. So I am happy to get questions. This is the presentation. I don't know if that is high resolution enough to scan. You can also copy the link in the chat. But there is a link also indeed provided below. If you have any questions, let's say feedback, please provide us. This is feedback. Provide us with feedback on this presentation, and I'm very happy to answer possible questions that you have either in the room or via the chat or online. Anything? Do we see anything online? Maybe as a small update on, because I've used the live, so if you go to the live screen, you see exactly what I just presented. Of course, we will finalize the delivery of Flying Green in the next week. So an additional element will be introduced, and that additional element has to do with the introduction of zero-emission aircraft. So you see here that we now have revolutionary aircraft, but the user will be in a position to provide the entry into service year of electric aircraft or hybrid electric aircraft and the entry into service year of hydrogen aircraft, and with a number of deliveries per year, based also on the input that we get from the Alliance for Zero Emission Aircraft, where we are quite active in. So we have already developed, let's say, base material, master files, input material for this. So it would be also easier to see what revolutionary aircraft would bring into your specific area based on the flight networks that we identified in the Alliance for Zero Emission Aircraft. So that will be an addition, and then of course after that we will continue with improvements also based on your feedback. But this is something that you can expect also in the next couple of weeks to be added to the platform. If there's no questions, then I would certainly invite you to have a look to the live as it is already. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pascal. If you, by all means, if you have more questions or you have some kind of epiphany, yeah, Donald, please.
Thanks, Don. That's actually a good question, because we haven't gone into the very much details, because I thought that we would then run out of time. But so I've explained to you that we have the top line, we have all the reduction potential, and then we end up with the green line, which is the net emissions, with the assumption that the rest of let's say the white part needs to be offset by market-based measures. We have calculated ETS allowance cost and CORSIA costs for the trajectories that we see. So for the intercontinental flights, it is CORSIA allowance that you need to buy, and for the intra-European, it's of course the EU ETS allowance that you have to buy. So those are the yellow and blue parts. Blue for the CORSIA, yellow for the ETS, and we've added additional fuel cost because of the SAF regulations. So the green part is the additional sustainable aviation fuel part compared to the conventional aviation fuel part. So these are additional costs, additional environmental costs to airlines, and this view will present you with the total costs for all the traffic that you have selected in that particular overview. But you could go to an average cost per flight. And then, of course, we cannot divide between ETS and CORSIA anymore, because it's just, let's say, a combination of this. But this is the blue part, and still the SAF part is the additional SAF costs are presented here in green. And there you see that we have an additional cost per flight in this particular overview of 1,600 euros going up to close to 5,000 euros per flight in 2050. Now, I don't know specifically if you can fully offset, or let's say fully take SAF as a CO2 reduction potential into consideration, or that you still need to take into account the life cycle assessment values. So that means that you cannot deduct the full SAF part, but still a part from SAF needs to be taken into consideration as still net emissions. But we have that option in here as well. So we can fully exclude the SAF part, which will reduce then the ETS costs, or we can take life cycle assessment values into consideration. So this is basically what is the cost graphs are presented.
There's one
from Jerry. Does the base scenario for improvements take into account estimated environmental benefits for plant operational improvements? No. So you see indeed on the, thank you for that question. You see on the what if, the three different scenarios that we have. And these are only the traffic growth scenarios. So initially in the Flying Green platform, we had the scenarios and that included everything. So now we have only basically these are generating the traffic lines. And it will change a little bit, let's say, the assumptions here, but in the end, it is necessary for you to include your values in those areas. We start with the EUROCONTROL default values, but essentially these are only traffic growth scenarios. So not taking into account operational improvements that much. So you would see, of course, that, let's say, in the high scenario, we have a bit more operational improvement, but you are able to reduce that immediately if you like. So that's really the intention for the platform, is that you use it with your values, not specifically with the EUROCONTROL values. Is for information, and that is very useful, of course, as well. But the intention is that you provide that you can input your values and see what you think your local situation would reflect towards the future, based on the reference operational data that we have, and on the traffic growth figures that are from EUROCONTROL. Other questions?
Any more questions from the room or online? Please feel free even to raise your hand and speak up if you're online, if that's easier for you. Yes, we have one.
Yes, maybe a question.
Thank you.
Question to know if it's possible to visualize a worldwide estimation.
Thanks, Vincent. A good question. Short answer, for the moment, no. We have all the information inside the network management area. So let's say the European area. We have information about departures from the European area and arrivals to the European area, and let's say assumptions about the global trajectories. So that's the full trajectory view. But for instance, in that view, we don't have overflights for Europe. So we don't have a global perspective of the of emissions in the platform. So it's from that point of view, the answer is no.
We have another hand, Catherine.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, hello, everyone. So I'm Catherine Maud from the Environmental Affairs section in the Swiss Civil Aviation Authority, and also co-rapporteur of FESG from the Cape. So that's where I'm coming from, and I would like to know where the data source is for the fuel, the SAF, in particular the SAF price. And I'm sure Rachel can also say she knows why I'm interested in that, with all the support we have to bring to the different work in Cape. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. So the information, or let's say the source data related to sustainable aviation fuel. So we start with starting from the RefuelEU mandate with regards to introduction of SAF into this mix as the default values. So the 6% by 2030, including, let's say, the 1.2 for the synthetic, up to 70% finally by 2050. The values that we use in the economic part, so the SAF price, the low, moderate, and high, again are aligned with the SAF prices that we use in the Aviation Outlook Reports 2050. So if you go to that report, you will see the assumptions that we have for the SAF prices in the different scenarios.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, or was there another aspect that you asked
No,
for.
no, it's okay. I shall check in the aviation outlook report. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks everyone. If in the meantime you have an epiphany, as I said during a break, and think of the question or potential use case or something that is bugging you, Pascal's going to be here, so you can even catch him during the break, or by all means write to us. You can use our standard email to approach us if you don't know our specific email, so aviation.sustainability@eurocontrol.int. Also, we do have this mini survey, which we kindly ask you to answer. There are only 3 questions, so it doesn't require too much time, but it will help us actually to see what's next. As I said, we are building this platform in cooperation with all of you, so we really want to know what is useful for you, what is missing, what else can we do. So by all means, try to answer that. And I saw one more hand actually raised, if I'm not mistaken. There was one hand raised, no?
I see that you raised your hand.
Well, I didn't touch anything. I don't know what's going on. No? Okay. I can't even log in. Okay, in that case, thank you, Pascal, very much. We'll move on to the next pillar, which is ClimAdapt, and we'll welcome Rachel actually to show us the several use cases from the ClimAdapt pillar. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Tamara. Good morning, everybody. So just bear with me 1 second while I work out the Okay, great. Thank you. So you just click, it appears. Okay, so ClimAdapt is the second pillar of Flying Green, or the second element of the platform. Pascal has just focused on the climate mitigation, decarbonisation aspects. ClimAdapt takes the opposite view, and it looks at what the potential impacts, risks of climate change might be for the sector. So, for example, if we're going to experience stronger storms because of climate change, what does that mean for operational disruption? If we're going to experience higher temperatures, what does that mean for passengers and personnel thermal comfort? So it looks at those various aspects, and it tries to provide a range of solutions to support stakeholders in, first of all, carrying out climate change risk assessments. It doesn't provide a risk assessment methodology, to be clear. There are several in existence already, but it helps to provide input to a climate change risk assessment. It helps to provide input to a climate change risk assessment and to help to identify adaptation solutions. So there are 5 main aspects to the tool. There is a high-level screening tool, and this is kind of a precursor to a climate change risk assessment. It's to establish your current level of understanding of what you do and don't know about what the climate change impacts might be for your specific organisation. We have the high-level economic assessment tool, and this is to give an indication of the scale of costs that you might incur from an increase in climate change related disruption or events. We have the repository of potential impacts and adaptation measures. So this is a database of potential impacts according to climate effect or physical climate phenomena, and then potential adaptation measures that you could consider to address those impacts. So it is non-prescriptive, it provides options for consideration, it doesn't propose specific measures for specific impacts. Then we have the repository of risk assessment and guidance. So this intends to bring together the existing guidance and information that is out there. It's disparate, it's in many different places from many different sources. So what we've tried to do is to bring everything together in one place so that you have a ready database of information that you can look at. And finally, we have the checklists for risk assessment and adaptation planning, which are to support when designing the process for carrying out a risk assessment and implementing an adaptation plan. And I'll show you those in a moment. So what we're going to do today, as Pascal did, we're going to switch to a demonstration of the actual tool. I'm going to give a very quick overview of a few of the elements that are new to ClimAdapt since we did the last demonstration after the last release, which I think was January. So we have added a couple of new elements now. So I'll show you those. And then we have two use cases. One is for an organization to do a high level look at potential climate impacts and adaptation measures. And the other is for using the economic assessment tool to get an indication of the scale of costs that might be incurred from a climate change event. Now, just 1 second. Yes, there we go. Okay, so we are now in the tool itself. So this is the landing page that you can see here. And on the landing page, you can get a sort of high-level indication of the various climate change effects that you might experience in each region. So these are IPCC climate change regions. You have Northern Europe, Western, the Mediterranean, for example. Doesn't have Iceland there. Just a second. Okay, great, thank you. So what you can see here is the high-level climate change effects in that region. And what we have. Thank you, Tamara. So what we have that is new for this release is EUROCONTROL has a new member state. I think it's our 42nd. So that's Iceland. So we have now integrated Iceland into the map, and Iceland are actually in a different IPCC region. So we've integrated the information for that IPCC region into the map as well. The other things that are new is we have, as we just mentioned, the repository of information. So here you can see that it is arranged by effects, then by impacts, and then we have information on climate change, risk assessment and adaptation planning. And the final thing that is new for this release is that we now have adaptation planning checklists for 4 different stakeholder groups. So in the last release, we only had the checklist for states. We now have one tailored to airline operators and navigation service providers and airports. So there are obviously, as you would expect, a lot of similarities in the basic process that each stakeholder group would apply, but there are some slight differences that we've tried to capture in these lists. And the other new feature we have is that you can now download the report once you've once you're working. I won't open it right now because it will flip me to another screen, and then we have to, it will disrupt the viewing again. But as you make changes to the checklist, you can save them and download them as you go. Okay, so the first use case we were going to look at was the repository, using the repository of impacts and adaptation measures to get an indication of the types of impacts that an organization might experience, and then the types of adaptation measures that might be available. So you can see that you can have various different stakeholder groups, airports, ANSPs, airline operators. I think we are going to look at an airport. And then you have the option to look at different climate change effects and what those impacts might be. So I think we start with, you can look at all of them together, or you can look one by one. So as a starting point, let's look at temperatures. And then you also have various different, or actually let's look at storms. This might be more. Then you have various different risk categories there. So you have business and economics, operations, infrastructure, people. So that's passengers and personnel. So again, you can look at them individually, you can look at them all together. So if you look at operations, then what you have is a list of potential risks or vulnerabilities for airports from storms or stronger storms, such as disruption to traffic, damage to infrastructure, disruption to ground transport access, and the types of adaptation measures that you could implement. If you then switch to look at infrastructure, here you can see, actually here the list is rather longer. You have various different infrastructure impacts, such as loss of power supply, impacts to fuel supply, and then a list of potential adaptation measures that you can introduce, such as securing assets, reinforcing infrastructure, for example. And so then what you can do is work through systematically to look at what the potential impacts might be. You can look at them side by side, or you can consider what the combined, if you have temperatures and storms and precipitation, what are the potential impacts and adaptation measures that you might need to address. And this is also downloadable or exportable as well. So you can, once you've got your impacts of relevance, then you can download them. You can also look at different stakeholder groups side by side. For example, you might want to see how the difference in how an airport or how an airline might be impacted by the same measure. Okay, so it's quite easy to play around with, as you can see. You just click each button and you can move between the different options. And then the other use case we were going to look at was using the economic assessment tool. So here, for example, we'll use an airport again, but it can be equally valid for an ANSP or an airline. It's looking at an indication of the kind of costs that... Okay, the indication of the kind of cost increase that you might experience from an increase in climate change related events. So it is an estimation, so some caveats there, and also just to stress that it is always good to use your own data, but this can give you an indication, and it can help you to make decisions about the extent to which you need to implement adaptation measures. So the use case is, for example, an airport is expecting to see an increase in major storms, which are going to impact its operations, potentially impact its infrastructure. So here you have a set of potential severity values ranging from insignificant to grave, the most serious, and some indicative values. Those are based on actual historical data, but of course, they're averages. There will be big variations across organisations. So the intention is to give an indication rather than a precise value. The other thing I should just say at this point is that I can take no credit at all for designing this tool. It was my colleague Tamara, who is sitting at the right of me here. This is her baby. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to present it today, but all the effort was Tamara's. So once you've got to this point, you're looking at a potential increase in major storms at an airport, and then you have various cost categories that you can select. So say, for example, if you have a loss of service at the airport, that's probably, let's say that's a significant cost. Then you have other cost categories such as OPEX and CAPEX. So we'll select a few to get an indication. You also have legal and regulatory impacts. Some might not be applicable, some might be insignificant. You have an insurance payoff, which of course is a positive value, and loss of reputation, which can lead to longer term impacts. So once you've selected your potential severity levels for each one, then you can look at the likelihood of the event occurring. So say for the moment, let's say we look at Brussels, in the Brussels airport here in Belgium. The airport might get impacted by a major storm, let's say at the moment once a year. But perhaps with climate change, that might start to occur every 6 months. So then once you've selected your likelihood, then you can have a look at your results. So just to stress here that this is a scale, these are indicative values to give an indication of the extent of the risk involved. These are not actual values. So the lower the score, the lower the risk, and vice versa. And then you can click in to get an indication of some indicative values. But again, just to emphasize, these are averages, and we do recommend carrying out a similar exercise with your own data. And you can see here that the values are quite low. So let's have a look. If we put in some higher values, let's say we think the loss of service is going to be damaging, and perhaps OPEX and CAPEX costs more significant, and reputational cost may be more significant, and that we think those storms are not going to happen just once every 6 months, they're going to happen once a month, which is hopefully worst case scenario, but we never know. So here you can see that the values are much higher, and this is the likelihood versus the severity cost, and this gives you an indication that you are likely to expect much higher costs, and perhaps is an indication of the cost of inaction, and that there would be some value in taking preemptive action. Okay, so I think that is pretty much the two user cases. I'm just going to go back to the home screen, and then I think we have some time for some questions. Okay, so here we also have a ClimAdapt survey. I have no idea what it's going to ask you, but please do feel free to give your Sabine prepared this. Thank you, Sabine, to give your feedback. I think one thing we're really looking for is input on what else you think there might be value in adding to the platform. I think we've got a fairly well-rounded package now of guidance, information on impact, support to risk assessment, but we do have the capacity to make a few additional adjustments or add a few additional elements. But before we do that, what we really wanted to understand is what would be useful for users. Is there anything that you think is missing, anything that you think would support your organisation in climate change risk assessments, identifying impacts, adaptation measures? So I will open it to the floor, and if there are any questions online or in the room.
You can save your work. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yes, good question. Thank you. Yes, so what you can do if you log in, there's a process to create an account or profile, and then you can log in. And then, for example, if you are looking at different combinations of impacts and adaptation measures, you can save those, or you could save output from the economic assessment tool, or you could save the climate change risk assessment and adaptation checklist, for example, as you're working through. So you can keep copies of all of your work there, as well as having the option to download. So especially, for example, with the checklist, if that might be something that you're using over a period of time. So rather than, okay, you can download a copy or print it off. But if you want to have an active copy that records your latest activity, you can do that by creating the account. And the account is also valid for the other 4 pillars as well. So I think it's one account for the whole platform. Yeah, it's one account for the whole platform. So you can save all of your work across the 4 platforms in one place. Okay, so thank you very much. If you do have any input on where we could go next with the platform, anything else it needs, or any feedback on any specific aspects, then of course, please do feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. If any more questions, so
there will be a test of the high environmental evacuation.
okay.
The alarm system.
Okay, I guess we can probably predict climate change better than the actually testing of Eurocontrol security systems, but okay, apologies for that, for the mini break. But indeed, both Pascal and Rachel will stay here now, at least until, what was their plan anyway? So we have a lunch break until 1:30. So I suggest until 12:30. So you have 45 minutes, both Rachel and Pascal here. We have put these signs at the back, so probably one of them is going to sit on or stand on each side, so you can go to and talk to them if you want to. Okay. Thank you. Indeed, coffee, 1:45, coffee will be here. So some bit of a refreshments for the afternoon session. So please talk to them if you have a specific use case problem on your mind, and you would like to see how Flying Green potentially can help you with that, or if you have a fabulous idea of what is missing and how we can improve it. By all means, come and talk to them. In general, what's important to also say, this is not the end of the road. We have just started in a way. We have developed a very good, robust platform, but we are not stopping the development itself. So obviously, there are things that we personally also would like to see there. For example, possibility maybe of some a frequent reporting to the different type of stakeholders, so that, I don't know, every quarter all of you can get a nice mail with maybe key messages that are relevant for your area of operations and something like that. But by all means, if there is a parameter missing, if there is a view missing, if there is a type of information or analysis missing, please come and talk to us. This is all us here. Whoever you talk to probably will either point you in the right direction or give you an answer. And also, as also Sabine shared in a chat, this is our generic email. You can write to us. You can, by all means, please answer to these 3 questions if you can. We really want your feedback to know how well we are actually doing. Thank you very much, and see you back then at 1:30 after the lunch break. Until then, I guess we're going to stop recording and we'll continue at 1:30. Thank you so much so far.
I'm Laurentin Bernier, Senior Expert at EUROCONTROL in the Aviation Sustainability Unit. I will be assisted today with, in the presentation by Pierre-Louis Dugenay from the same unit. Before starting, I'd like to thank all the attendants who was with us on the live and also in the room on the 3rd of July. However, we would like to inform you that due to a technical issue, the recording of the 3rd session dedicated to 3rd July and the session dedicated to FuellingDecarb of Flying Green On-boarding event was unfortunately incomplete. As a result, we re-record the FuellingDecarb presentation today for those who were unable to attend, but also as well for anyone who wished to revisit the content. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience and thank you for your understanding. The presentation of FuellingDecarb will last about 45 minutes. There will be an introduction about what is FuellingDecarb, what answers does it provide. Also 3 use cases, one about EU27 to show how much feedstock need to be mobilized for the production of the SAF according to the demand and the mandate, but also the quantity of electricity, the infrastructure costs, some examples, and also some example on the SAF cost also from different pathways. Second use case will be about Belgium, and then it will be presented by Pierre-Louis, and I will present the 3rd use case about Finland. Okay. And so, okay, we will. So let's start with what is FuellingDecarb. So there will be a few slides, as I said. So Pierre-Louis will go to them. So I mean, FuellingDecarb is a tool to estimate the energy and technical economic aspect of the SAF, but also not only the SAF, and we'll talk mainly about the SAF, but also hydrogen for hydrogen-powered aircraft and also electricity. But today the presentation is mainly dedicated to the SAF. It helps to identify gaps between the production and the demand. We also have one section dedicated to the SAF map, where it displays all different SAF policies, but also availability of SAF at different ECAC airports. And also a SAF corner that presents latest news about the SAF. Next slide, please. FuellingDecarb answers the following questions: how to assess SAF availability and the production or the gap in every country and different states, but also regions like EU27, ECAC, world. We don't necessarily have all the data for some, but at least we have all the data for EU27 and ECAC members states. It support also the assessment of availability and the gap in renewable energy or low carbon electricity according to the needs, and you'll see that needs will present that. But also how to assess the cost of deploying this renewable electricity or low carbon in terms of infrastructure, also number of SAF plants, and finally the SAF cost. Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, there will be a survey in the end that has been organized. So I will share my screen with you with the FuellingDecarb. Okay, so here is a platform. Okay, and we have the Flying Green platform. Here is a link. Okay. And FuellingDecarb tool is there. Okay. So we arrive to this window. Okay, I will move to a full screen for you. There will be more convenient. So as I said, first I will choose EU27. Okay, but here are all the states that you could choose. In 2050, we fly far in the future. Conversion data. So here's where you select states, years. Okay, we could select any years. Also, conversion data. We have 2 providers, TU Delft and Trinity College. I mean, both are very complementary in terms of conversion pathways and feedstock. Here are all the data for both, all the scientific papers that have been used to make the estimate in the conversion. An array about the electricity. As I said, we will just do, we could force and the use of low carbon electricity, just to give an example, not necessarily pushing this technology, but for the production of the bio and synthetic, and we'll do another example with renewable, and also Pierre, we will detail this. This is here the area where we have the level of sustainability. Just to explain for those who are not familiar with this, but the level of sustainability is a kind of sort of level of decarbonization. The combustion of the SAF, I mean, when you burn 1 ton of jet fuel, there is about 3.16 ton of CO2 emitted. It is the same with SAF, roughly speaking. The density, energy density is a bit higher, but okay. But this CO2 is different cycle. I mean, when we burn 1 ton of fossil, we add to the atmosphere CO2 from million years that was not there. When we make SAF, we use the CO2 who was captured with synthetic, with a direct air capture, so and combined with hydrogen to make fuel, or we use carbon from waste residues, from agriculture or forestry residues. I mean, only waste is allowed in European regulation, but it releases also, this combustion will release also 3.16 ton per ton of SAF burn, but it's a CO2 who was absorbed by a plant and released. So, I mean, it's nearly a neutral from CO2 in the atmosphere. We don't add CO2. So if we emit 50% of the CO2 who was emitted by a fossil fuel combustion, then we decarbonize by 50%. So this is the level of decarbonization. SAF should add to the atmosphere less CO2 from fossil origin, okay? By 70% for synthetic and 65%. Here's the mandate, another 70%, which is different. This 70% here is 70% of the SAF that will be uploaded in aircraft should be of the fuel should be SAF. Okay, 35% bio-origin SAF from forestry residue and so on and so forth. We'll see, and 35% minimum synthetic SAF. We foresee some hydrogen aircraft, okay, and also electric aircraft. Here you can change the units, okay, going to million ton, kiloton, ton, or Anglo-Saxon unit like pounds, million pounds. We'll stay in million ton. Same for the electricity. We could move to terawatt hours, will be easier. And here's the forecast. The forecast align with European Eurocontrol aviation outlook 2024 is 43 million ton of conventional jet fuel, and from it 70% will be SAF. That translate into about 15 million ton of bio-SAF and 15 million ton of synthetic SAF. We apply these parameters, and we will arrive to a window where we could produce SAF for the area we have chosen. So here is hydrogen aircraft for hydrogen aircraft, electricity for electricity aircraft, but we concentrate on SAF. One area here is a bio-SAF. All the production of the bio-SAF, we'll set that to 0. Okay, no feedstock use for the moment, and we will see how much feedstock need to be mobilized. And here's the synthetic SAF production will go there. So as I said initially, if we said with how many ton of cooking oil we would need to make 1 ton of SAF. Well, here we are in million ton, but it would be the same. How many million ton? So if we use about a little bit that more than 2.4 ton or 2.4 million ton, depending on the year and the I would say what we choose in terms of output. Okay, we need about 2 ton or 2 million tons to make 1 million ton of SAF. Okay, but that vary depending on the output. We could also prioritize here with maximizing the output, the SAF output from the refinery, or minimizing, and then we obtain something different as a need with a higher need, roughly 2.5. So back to the EU 27 case. If we let's consider that we have 9 million ton available and we mobilize about 50% of that, this is what we will produce. Okay, and the total objective is this 70%. Half is synthetic and half is bio, but we could see that will not be enough, and even mobilize 100%, which is would be mission impossible. But this is what we will cover according to the need. So we consider maybe 50% could be achievable in terms of collection of all the wasted cooking oil. We could add a little bit of agriculture residue, some other agriculture residue, where the detail is explained there if you go in this field. Some forestry residue as well, and municipal waste that are there. Okay, we could see that roughly we could achieve the target here with mobilizing this. So okay, it's something quite feasible. Synthetic SAF is what remains to be produced. The need is about 15 million ton of, so to make about 15 million ton of synthetic SAF, we will need to produce roughly 15 million ton of hydrogen. Here is displayed that we will need to capture about more than 100 million ton of CO2 to combine this and make SAF. Okay, here's we quantity we allowed for the aviation, and okay, we produce a little bit more, but okay, that gives an example of what will be required. The quantity of electricity is important. I mean, it's 774 terawatt hours. Just to give you an example, France total production per year is about 500 terawatt hours. We'll see that what it represents at a European level. Just forcing for this as an example, only a nuclear power from the latest reactors. Here is the gap to fill. That is the SAF plus the co-product, but we can't produce only 100% SAF. I will show you. So if we deploy only nuclear power plant that are of this power, 1.6 gigawatt hour or 1,600 megawatt peak, sorry, at the cost of a little bit 8 billion euros. There are 20 billion euros today, but the need will be about 100 power plant. We could do the same exercise by forcing only nuclear and renewable. If we select renewable here and remove nuclear, we could also do the same by allocating everything to nuclear, to renewable, solar, for example. If we force everything to solar, that would represent this number, I mean, 1 billion solar panels, which is 50 kilometers times 50 kilometers at average European irradiance at 248 billion euros. We were at more than 900 billion euros with nuclear. However, here in the solar, there will be a need to, this will increase the cost of the SAF, well, reduce the cost of the electricity, but increase on the deployment, but increase the cost of the SAF on the part of the plant, because the plant could, because of the variability, there will be a need to have a bigger SAF plant to absorb this quantity of electricity, which increase the cost, but all this could be computed. Okay, so that was the example for EU27. I will give the floor to Pierre-Louis, who will present the Belgium case.
Many thanks, Laurent. So, the nice presentation. So here we'll focus, as mentioned by Laurent, on Belgium. So in this case, we are putting ourselves in the shoes of a person working either at SKIES or at the Federal Public Service for Mobility or on transport. And what we would like to achieve in this example is to explain the way we can assess and calculate the SAF production potential of Belgium based on two elements. So the first one is the feedstock that is available, and the second one is the electricity supply that will be available. Okay, so here first, so we'll focus on Belgium as mentioned. So I will go there. Then with regard to the different other elements on the settings, so I will keep the year at 2050. The regulation is still refueling aviation, which translates into the mandate, which is here. And with regard to the conversion data, I will keep also TU Delft for this example. The electricity sources allowed. In this case, we keep everything because we are interested by the potential also with the real electricity supply potential in 2050. And I will also maybe change this into terawatt, and we'll start just now. Okay, here we go. So I will first focus on the SAF production potential with the feedstock that is needed. Okay, so I will not pay attention to the other elements here, but just focus on this. So first we'll start with this view on the 5 categories of feedstock that we have here in terms of biosaf. And I will start with the waste oil and fat biomass, which is basically used cooking oil. And because I'm recording this video from Belgium, and that with the Belgian gastronomy, the fries are quite important. We have a lot of used cooking oil that is available here. And therefore, we'll try to have reasonable amount there. And we'll focus on 50%. Means we'll use 50% of the potential volume of waste oil and fat biomass or used cooking oil that can be collected, which is a lot. It's really a max, this one. Then for the other one, what we'll try to do is to have around 25% for the other categories, which is also quite significant. Okay. Again, I try to be around. And as you can see here, with regard to the potential for biosaf, we are there. We are there. What we are missing is just, no, I'm missing a bit. Yeah, I'm missing just a bit of, I will increase a bit this one maybe. And that's it, yeah. And then what we are missing now is the eSAF, okay? So the synthetic SAF. But again, remember, something that you need to remember is that for this Belgian example, we are putting the pressure on the feedstock to the maximum, because it's, for example, if I focus on the agricultural lignocellulosic and sugar content feedstock or agricultural residues. So for this one, it's also important that some of the feedstock is staying on the ground for soil quality purposes, to ensure that the soil quality remains high. You need to have also a certain quantity of the feedstock that remains on the ground, okay? And it's the same for other feedstock, type of feedstock. You will have also a different constraint in terms of usage, etc. So here we are really at the max capacity in terms of collect and use for SAF production, right? So now turning to synthetic SAF. So what we need to do is to better understand what we can have there. So in terms of the potential for the SAF, normally should be around 4. I will try with 3.7. Let's see. And what I will say is that we'll use 70% for aviation, which again is quite important. And let's see what we got. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for the. Oh, we're nearly there. I just need a bit more than maybe 17. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So here, as you can see, we produced the biosaf we needed, but we also have the synthetic SAF, not yet. Yeah, normally, yeah, that's it. Normally should be everything. Yeah, okay, everything is okay. It's green. Let's put it maybe. Okay. Okay, so now that we have everything related to the SAF in terms of feedstock, and that we see here that thanks to the different parameters that we modified and which have an impact on the feedstock and the volume of feedstock that we decide to allocate to SAF production, we'll now turn to the electricity that is needed. Remember, it was the second point that was important for this use case, is to show you what we can do from an electricity supply point of view. So here, what we will say is that we need to focus also on the renewable electricity needs, okay? So if we have a look at the electricity gap, because here you have the different electricity sources that are available, but now we focus only on the gap, okay? So on the gap, you see that we need to have 20 terawatt, right? And in Belgium, there are a lot of different offshore farm with offshore wind turbines that are installed in Belgium, and we decide, okay, we'll try to cover this, let's say 80%, and we'll import the rest, right? So then we say, okay, we'll import the rest, so 21% in this case. And as you can see, with the different assumptions that we took, so the assumptions are the following. So the turbine works 30 megawatt peak turbine power with a load factor of 50. So remember that we are here in 2050. This is the time horizon. For the timing, the load factor is more around 40% for offshore wind turbines. And we have this cost around 50 million euro per wind turbine. So which leads us to need to install 121 offshore wind turbines. And the associated cost is 5.9 billion euro. Okay. Then we go back to this one. And we see that we are okay with regard to the electricity need. We don't have any gap here. We used everything that was needed, and that we used this amount of electricity, so this volume of electricity, so 4.3 terawatt hours for the biosaf, and 16.2 for the eSAF, okay? So it's also to give you another magnitude of what needs to be allocated to produce specifically eSAF, okay? So the things, now we just had a quick overview of the SAF production potential and energy supply challenges for Belgium. Laurent will now guide you through another country with more abundant feedstock and let's say a better energy availability, because here you see that we needed really to push everything to the maximum, and on top to add offshore wind farms to be able to produce the SAF we needed. Okay, so we have the feedstock, the collection that is at max level, and we also have add for Belgium in 2050 the need to add electricity supply by deploying offshore wind farms. Okay, up to you, Laurent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pierre-Louis, for this presentation of that case in Belgium. Of course, in Belgium, there will be, we see that according to the need, there will be an important mobilization of the that could be challenging. However, for the eSAF, for the synthetic SAF production, they could be in good position because they have access to the North Sea with a lot of renewable energy that could be installed and produce the synthetic SAF in quantities and also to export. So just before going to Finland case, where we could see that it would be quite easy, I mean, to produce the SAF they would need according to the resource they have and probably export. But also we saw that at European level, it looks feasible. The quantities of feedstock we have used here are from Konkawi Imperial College. There was the lowest estimate, and there was two estimates, a high estimate and low estimate. We are using a conservative low estimate, but you could have other opinion. Also, we allow the user could, in any case, use its own assumption and enter here in the global quantity for any feedstock what he think for his country or for any area. That is important to say that we allow the user to change any values and to make different what if or use different assumptions. Before going to Finland case, I wanted to show you two things in Europe, but that is about the cost of the SAF produced, as I said. Okay, if we could go there. There is also in this version, is this new release, a possibility for the user to access to all the feedstock and associated pathway to convert this into SAF and to see the decomposition of the cost. For instance, here we are in waste oil and fat biomass, and we see that the majority of the cost, I mean, we are at a little bit more than 2,000 euros as a cost. But most of the cost is made from the feedstock. I mean, 1 ton of cooking oil is more than 1,000 euros. Today is 1,000 euros about. It's a bit more as a forecast in the future, but we don't foresee that going too high. Well, it's still a lot, but because after you have other feedstock and pathways that are cheap, but that will enter in competition, and this will regulate a little bit the cost. So, but as an example, cooking oil and used represent the mass majority of the cost, of the total cost, levelized cost of the SAF produce. I mean, the rest in terms of electricity cost is very low, analyzed cost, capital cost for the plant is also quite low, and same for the labor and maintenance. If we look at something different, which is the synthetic SAF, it's really different. The majority is the cost is electricity. So it is really important here to reduce that the cost of the electricity. Then you'll reduce the cost. You don't have feedstock. Feedstock is the CO2 capture in the air, but to do so, it's a consumption of electricity. Okay, so this is where there could be a good possibility to play. Okay, so just I go to the Finland case. So here we select Finland. Okay. We stay in 2050. Delft, we still use those electricity. We allow everything. The need is 0.666 million ton of fuel, and I will stay in gigawatt hour for this country. We apply, and we will see how much biomass will need to be mobilized. So we put everything to 0. By default, we have some value that we put for the user, but we could start in this case. Okay. I will. So we'll go full screen. So let's mobilize 50% of the cooking oil, a little bit more. Okay, roughly. Then we start to use some agriculture residue. Here, forestry residue, I mean, they have a lot of forestry residue. So, okay, let's just mobilizing this. Okay, we explode the need, so we could go very low, even reduce this quantity of agriculture residue. And we could see that we achieve easily the target. I mean, we could see that just taking 5% of the forestry residue and 5% of the agriculture residue and no other municipal waste and 50% cooking oil, we achieve the objective. Here we need to produce 0.23 million tons. So okay, it's about 0.2 million tons of hydrogen to be produced. It should be green hydrogen, and we start to produce the synthetic SAF. Okay, so we see that for Finland, it's relatively easy. Therefore, Finland could also export for other countries SAF they produce. Here's the cost, levelized cost of the production. And as I said before, we could enter in different menu. We have here the cost of the cooking oil in terms of forecast, but also different elements regarding the transport of the feedstock to the SAF plant. I mean, the emission from that, the distance to deliver the SAF to the airport, the emission associated, and also the cost, whether we transport by truck, barge, pipelines. I mean, all this could be also changed by the user and to make a better assessment of the levelized cost. We have also some co-products I'd like to come back on this, is when we make SAF, as I said, with 1 liter of milk, we don't make only butter, we make also other co-product. So this is a list also of the co-product that will be produced and sell. One interesting co-product is diesel that could be used in road, but also in maritime, and the needs in terms of maritimes and aviation are very close. I mean, the maritime may represent something like 2-3% of the CO2 emissions. Same for the aviation, around a bit more than 3%. But if we use the same plant and the same feedstock, we could also produce for both, and then have a good synergy in terms of investment that we foresee. Okay, so I will go to the conclusion of that presentation that we performed. So so, I mean, I was in Hamburg last week and as a speaker for the University of Air Traffic organized by Philippe Fonta. And we made that presentation to a lot of people who had great interest in that. And we had this discussion also on the maritime and the synergy that could be between aviation and maritime. Both have a very similar objective in terms of decarbonization and use the same amount of energy, so amount of fuel with different fuel. One is more close to diesel and the other is kerosene. This tool was built, and thanks for all the exchange we had with you. And I mean, I hope you'll get many takeaways from this presentation. And we really appreciate to continue this work with you and to raise awareness on the crucial need of to secure feedstock for very hard to abate transport like aviation, and to anticipate the SAF related need of energy that you saw. That is important to have a low carbon electricity and at an affordable price. I mean, we'd like to thank you for your attention, and we are looking forward working with you. I mean, the months to come. There has been 3 questions. I mean, on this presentation that we made on 3rd. Well, the one was about the greenhouse gas saving, but I already talked about it at the beginning. Second was about the choice, different choice between TU Delft and Trinity College. I mean, both are really complementary. I mean, it's just different vision. You could have a vision that, okay, in 2050, the electrolyzer efficiency will be 80%. Another may think that it could be a little bit more. Okay, so there is this kind of difference in terms of, I would say, the opinion of the future, how it will evolve, also in terms of performance. Also, there is very, very complementary in terms of some feedstock and conversion. I mean, of course, AFR is on both and Fiertroche, but in Trinity College, there was a little bit more on power to liquid pathway. I mean, we had a pathway in TU Delft for synthetic. Here we have 3 pathways. One is very similar, based on the liquid absorbent for the CO2, and but we have a methanol to jet who is not yet certified, but I mean, in the pipeline for this. We also had a conversion with using sewage and algae that are complementary. Small quantities, but okay, it was to look at it. And here are as I said, the power to liquid pathway with the tree, and especially methanol to jet. That is a pathway that is new, but will be hopefully certified by EASA and also ASTM body. And the third question was about how to save all those informations. It's not yet possible to save this in the tool. So you could use it and make many calculations, many tests, right? But this will be possible in next version, hopefully, where here there will be a possibility to save your results, but also to upload them or to save an intermediate work, then to continue it. That will be possible probably in the next version. So I hope we answered all the questions, the need, and gave appetite for different users. That could be energy company, INSPs or airline to deploy SAF production near to the airport. I mean, especially synthetic SAF could be produced very close to the airport. For bio plant, that would be different because you need to be closer to the feedstock, usually, maybe not cooking oil, because that could transport. It's very, very concentrated energy. But for agriculture residue, I mean, you may have several hundred SAF plant in Europe or ECAC to be close to the feedstock. Rather than transporting the feedstock, you have to transport only the SAF. That is easier. Okay.
Thank you for your attention. Many thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you, Pierre-Louis, also for the participation.
Good afternoon. Since we have already started, let me first introduce myself. My name is Kostas Papoutsis, Sustainable Finance, Aviation Sustainability in EUROCONTROL, and together with my colleagues Sabine Kerr and Pierre-Louis Dugenet, we have been working the last couple of years on the DecarbFin pillar of the FlyingGreen platform. So the DecarbFin pillar, and let's set the screen around right now. It is built in order to respond to the challenge of now that we know already the emission trajectories, the feedstock and the energy transition projects that we want to put forward, the measures and the climate adaptation we want to introduce, how we can all of them finance them, where we can find funding for all of these projects. Let me share the screen, the presentation here. I guess you see it full screen right now. If it is full screen, because I see it not. Yeah, now should be perfect. So first, let me give you a bit of a background. What is DecarbFin? It's a toolkit to support aviation stakeholders for access to enhance access to sustainable finance, and together with how to build stronger ESG reporting capabilities. It has been built in the context of the EU Green Deal. So the EU Green Deal is a set of policy objectives that will enable the green and digital transformation of European Union. It comes together with some targets. And it also, European Commission, in order to finance this transition, they created already the EU Sustainable Finance Framework. So this is a framework which consists of rules and regulations, standards and disclosures, which support, let's say, investing on the sustainable projects to accelerate sustainability and sustainable transition as well, and to support both investors and investees need for allocating the resources where needed, but also enhancing transparency, especially on the project performance, and also the investees as organizations that invest on specific decarbonization and climate adaptation projects. Knowing that these challenges, and also having engaged with our stakeholders that were reaching out to us and asking questions about what do we need to do in order to comply with these regulations around sustainable finance? Is it mandatory for us? What is the content of reporting which is required for this EU taxonomy, CSRD, and so on? We built we built a document which is called Blue Book, and the Blue Book is here to introduce. It has been launched in 2024 July, exactly 1 year from now, and it is here to introduce the EU taxonomy and the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the two mandatory overarching regulations, part of the EU Sustainable Finance Framework, which affect already aviation and will affect aviation in the future as well. Now, these two regulations, EU taxonomy, it is a regulation which provides a classification of sustainable economic activities, allowing, enabling the audience to understand which of these activities can be treated as sustainable and under which conditions, one. And second, the CSRD, it is built, it provides, actually introduces, I would say, a framework, data-based environmental, social, and governance reporting framework, which provides clarity on the investors, on the organization's maturity around sustainability reporting, on some performance-based information around decarbonization projects, and especially looking mostly on data, like data points, reporting data points, and disclosures on decarbonization performance. So this book can be treated as a perfect onboarding material for EU taxonomy and CSRD. It is coupled with visuals like the ones that you see in the screen. So eventually it can help via decision-making trees the reader understand if their affiliated organization is eligible and under compliance for EU taxonomy, assuming that there is a regional airline asking on CSRD compliance, for instance. We do have this visual in the Blue Book. So the company, the underlying organization, they need to know exactly if they are market-oriented company, and also how many employees there are, the turnover and the assets of the organization to estimate when, if and when they should report based on CSRD standards. On the other hand, another organization like an NSP asking for EU taxonomy eligibility and alignment. So this visual is here to support the reader understand if the company's activities that they offer, that they provide as a service, if they are eligible for EU taxonomy, if they are aligned or need to be aligned for EU taxonomy, meeting the technical screening criteria, so all these conditions that can render them sustainable. And finally, if they comply with minimum safeguards, the social part of EU taxonomy, and at the end, with the taxonomy KPIs, capital expenses, operational expenses, and turnover, they will report the share of this alignment with the regulation. So we do have all these visuals that usually support the decision-making from aviation stakeholders in our case, and especially in EU taxonomy, which has also aviation-dedicated context. Next to that, of course, we did have a request from our stakeholders around, okay, now we have a project in mind or in design, and we would like to finance this. We go to the bank, we need to be informed about that. What do we need to have at hand to support and improve the opportunity for the successful deal with the bank? What they need to know, so they prepare upfront and so on. This is why we built the Funding Booster. The Funding Booster is a tool which the user can provide specific profile of the project, but also for the company, and nothing confidential, public information that will support the engine to provide the more suitable financial, sustainable finance instruments that the banking sector can nowadays offer, together, of course, that with specific resources like roadmaps, aviation decarbonization roadmaps, and specific ESG reporting frameworks that are usually asked by the ones that invest, the financing institutions, to support transparency, but also benchmarking for the performance of the candidate borrower company. Going back now, we'll try to share with you the tool per se. So the tool is not, I guess it's not, let me share the screen once again, now with the tool. Here is the tool, perfect. So first of all, here you see the DecarbFin. This is the fund finder, we will speak about that in a couple of minutes. And this is the funding booster. Before we spoke about Blue Book, which is on the bottom of the page, anyone can download the Blue Book as well. It's already here. And the funding booster, it is the tool that we can enter now. And we already have the platform that the fund seeker can use to find the project. Assuming now that we can follow up from the FuellingDecarb presentation, and we would like to use a hypothetical scenario for a use case, for instance, of a stakeholder which want to invest on SAF provider, on SAF provision, or to build a SAF production unit. In the type of organization, for instance, the company, and of course, if it's part of the EU 27, and then we set the company characteristics, and then we set the project characteristics, a project with environmental impact, specific project around SAF. And then we set, of course, we selected the project, the sub-projects or the subtypes of the project that illustrate the SAF production unit, and then some information around the company. We can click either yes or no. As you can see, by clicking, the outcomes change. We can leave it blank if needed, and then we can also create a profile. So let's click everything yes, which actually gives a stronger ESG reporting for the company, on ESG strategy for the company. Now we have already filtered specific instruments, and we can click in green bonds, for instance, and the user can now see and read the green bond, the indicators used, the reporting needed, the type of projects are usually funded by this specific instrument. And in the bottom, of course, we have added real world cases from green bond financing, especially let's check now the Schiphol Airport green bond with some very concrete and structured information around this transaction, when it happened, what was the organization, how much it has been funded, KPIs used to support the case, where the money went, the use of proceeds, and if it's taxonomy aligned and so on. So we go back now to not this one, to the other, yeah, to this one. And we're back to the search area. Next to the green bond, of course, the user can pick, as mentioned before, either roadmaps to support the benchmarking or the alignment with global aviation or EU aviation sustainability roadmaps. The user can click and read the information here as well. Like that, very structured information around the roadmap per se. The technological solutions it implies, the policy and market mechanisms it refers to, investing needed, and so on. And then going back to that one, not again this one. Okay, let me again, going back to this one. This is the green platform. And then to ESG reporting frameworks, clicking a framework as the ones that we spoke before, SASB. Again, the user can read and get informed around the sector-specific, I mean, like specific aviation-related indicators to be recommended by the ESG framework, or the general information around if it's voluntary or not, if it comes under a fee or not, and so on. So the user can read and get informed from all these reporting frameworks. And then if the user would like more information around what is the current market looking now, we have created the Danger Metrics platform. It's a database dashboard which provides a snapshot of the current look of the market, of the sustainability finance market for aviation always. Here we have some visuals around geographical allocation of funds, so how much, let's say, funds have been allocated to financing sustainable aviation globally and ECAC level. The per year and per instrument allocation of funds, so what type of instruments have used and when. The per KPI allocation of funds, which provides information what are the popular KPIs in the sustainable finance market for aviation, a snapshot of what type of aviation stakeholder groups used what type of financial instruments to finance what type of projects. So we have this snapshot of who, what, and where the money went. And finally, per different type of stakeholder, what the KPIs were the most popular in those type of transactions. So this is to enhance the information of and decision making of the candidate borrower, and of course help, let's say, a transaction in a bit more safe, to play it a bit more safely, let's say, and informed around the historical, let's say, information on sustainable finance market. Going back now, so that was a funding booster, and we have also the fund finder. So for those who would like to look to combine the private financing with public financing, EU financing in that case, and or at least to focus specifically and more dedicated in EU funding, we have built the so-called fund finder, which is actually like the funding booster. It's a fund-seeking platform where the user can add information around the project, but also around themselves. Especially here, we have a strong relation on the project because there are ample opportunities from EU funding programs and calls, and there are very specific sectors within aviation that can be funded by EU funds. So the user can click here to understand, first of all, FAQ, the logic, the assumptions that we used to build the fund finder, and here, before we get into the specific fund-seeking platform, the search, let's say, area, the user can advise specific already funded EU-funded projects funded by different programs. Here you see there is a carousel, so by clicking one of them or going to the website directly of the project to get informed and mainly help the decision making as well on what type of projects have been funded by, or ideas have been funded by European Commission in the past. Now, how does it work? By clicking on Search My Funding, we get in the search area. Again, we can assume a hypothetical scenario of a use case, assuming now a Belgian NHP would like to fund specific projects on ATM developments for aviation green operations or CNS technologies as well. And here we see a gradual filtering of the results. The more we filter on the menu, on the left side menu, the more outcomes results will be filtered as well. And if we want to focus exclusively on calls and exclusively on active and closing soon calls, that will be the final outcome. So 3 calls. Cesar, actually, it is the one that prevails here. And the user can click on this one, read specifically what Cesar, this specific call, can fund. We have call topics as well, very concrete gates to financing specific sectors for ATM reducing emissions. Clicking on one topic, for instance, the operational one, which is airborne capabilities for supporting reducing ATM environmental footprint. And here we can see exactly the context and the objectives of this specific funding opportunity. For those who want to go one step further, there is an official source. We click here, and the platform brings us exactly in the point of application for the funding. We see now the European Commission portal, which is used in order to apply to submit for the financing. And by clicking here, we can start submission. So we're exactly in let's say, in the front door of the EU funding application. So this is why Fund Finder has been built to facilitate, besides facilitating information collection around the administrative, let's say, journey that they have to undertake, smaller or shorter or longer, eventually the gate to the EU funding as well. If, for instance, assuming another hypothetical scenario, a Cyprus airport, Cypriot airport, would like to focus now not in ATM related, but airport related opportunities, funding opportunities. We unclick the ATM and CNS, and we focus now on the airport infrastructure for low carbon operations. And we have also open call like EIG. But if we want now to check funds as well, we click, we can reset and we can pick it again. So we have also a reset button, which facilitates an instant reset of all the information and building a new profile as well. We see now the EIB funding, so environmental, European investment banking. What do they offer in terms of funding opportunities? They have a bit more spontaneous framework for applications, for financing. We see the project maturity, so that what type of projects and how they equity guarantees, loans, how they finance them, which countries are eligible, specific EU aid fund projects as well for to understand what type of projects they usually fund. So we have also a financing opportunity like a fund. We used to have a call, and now we do have visited Funding Booster, Fund Pathfinder. We do have specific calls and funds and instruments that we like, and we want to create a collective, like a bag, like a case, where we want to see to use this information further on. In that sense, we click on the My Basket, and the My Basket is exactly that space, a cloud space, which helps the user to store temporarily all the selected elements from a basket. So here, the user can click in the Fund Pathfinder, the fund they visited and they liked it for further exploitation and exploration, and that can be the European Investment Bank, as you remember. And here we can click also the Cesar call. So here it's the call. So in Cesar 2025, we will go for the industrial research. Yes, it's the last one. We add it in the basket as well. We can also remove them via the remove icon. For Funding Booster, we had clicked on the green bonds, so we can add them. For Funding Booster specifically, the case, the business case, let's say it's built by a green bond. So the dominant here is the green bond, which is actually the head of the case. We can click on the SASB as an ESG reporting framework, which all of them can also offer to the banks, and Destination 2050, indicatively a roadmap as well. And here the user can click on this one, and you can see the screen here. There is a fund which is depicting a project case or a call as well here. By clicking this clickable elements, we can go back to the related fund of the call or back to the call per se. And for the fund, we can either go back to the fund or in its project case that the fund has funded in the past. And here there is a download word with clicking this one. We can download in a document the information that it's a part of the Fund Pathfinder selected framework. And if we go to the Funding Booster, similarly, we see the My Selection green bonds. So this is what we said before, that the green bonds is what actually governs the use case. In that case, we do have the use case associated with the green bond or funded by a green bond, some information around what has to be at hand in or at place in order for the fund seeker to optimize, let's say, the opportunities for financing. And here we have, in the case, the linked ESG framework and the linked roadmap. So here we can click add an ESG framework from the list that we have initially selected here. So the more we add here, the more we link here as well. In our case, we have one ESG framework and one roadmap that we can link. And this is the business case here that we have built for Funding Booster and the previous for Fund Pathfinder. Similarly, for Funding Booster, we can also click download word, and we will see a downloaded document. So going to find, the user can get more information within the Word, of course, if they want. So this was in a nutshell. Let me see if we can also stir the words. 1 second to see if there is a download word and also downloadable words. Yes. So we can open the EU funding first and then the private funding. So normally we should see two documents, and I will now reshare the screen. So we're close to the end of the presentation, but we would like to share with you first the EU funding, how it looks like. This is the already selected in the basket for the EU funding. So for Fund Pathfinder, here we can also update the content immediately. What is the content, the table of contents, and here you see the funds that have been selected by the user and the calls as well, and all the associated information. Similarly, we can go to the private financing, and we can click on the downloaded document, a bit longer this one. Again, we can also click here to expand the table of contents if we need, of course. And then we can see the elements that we have created in full deployment, the green bonds, information about the green bonds, sources related to the green bonds, the roadmap that we have picked, destination 2050, the information, the description of the roadmap, the ESG framework. Of course, what the more that we select and link in the basket, the more information we will have, and the longer documents we will have as well. And here is the real financed cases from a green bond in that case, and we have all this situation and more information as well. So this has been the DecarbFin. We have the Blue Book, the Fund Finder as an EU funding and the funding booster as a private financing. All of them work complementarily in a combined manner to enhance the information of the user and the preparedness and the maturity regarding either the financing for EU funding or the need for financing from a private institution. Our intention is to keep them live and fresh. So we plan to refresh all the data of the dashboard that you saw before in the open dashboard in the Tableau, or to refresh also to inform and update the funds and the calls from the Fund Finder and the instruments and other resources from the funding booster, as well as keep an eye on the upcoming regulations that will affect aviation, Blue Book part now, EU taxonomy and CSRD, and launch the right services in order to keep the aviation stakeholders informed about that. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes, this was it. Thank you and have a good rest of the day.